Il n'y a rien à faire pour le micro, ça marche.
Test.
C'est ouvert. Okay. On peut commencer? Ok. Bon, vous êtes prêts? C'est bon? Parfait. Allez, c'est parti. Okay, so thank you for joining this session on how to accelerate advanced nuclear technology deployment with by leveraging the best of two different worlds, so nuclear engineering and digital solutions. In this session, we are going to talk about model-based system engineering and virtual twins. But let me first introduce the two main speakers of this session. So Benjamin Baudouin from Systèmes. Benjamin will share with us his learnings as a system engineer involved in modular and advanced reactor projects. And Thomas Marchand from Dassault Systèmes is a consultant in model-based system engineering and system engineering, and he will bring his knowledge from other manufacturing industries. So back to the main topic of this session, how to accelerate the deployment of advanced nuclear technologies like modular reactors. All companies developing advanced modular reactors faces the same challenges, meaning that the first challenge is what is the right architecture for my product? As a system architect, am I making the right decision? The next challenge is the time to market. What can I do to be the first on the market and to win the market? How can I take into consideration the complete life cycle of a facility I'm designing? But also, how can I ensure that my modular reactor can be manufactured in a facility and delivered on site efficiently? And the last challenge is, of course, nuclear safety. How can I ensure that I will be able to accelerate the regulatory processes from standard design approval to license to operate? And the virtual twin is a key asset to address these challenges. When we talk about a virtual twin, so virtual twins are based on proven digital technologies. Some of them, like modeling and simulation or digital mockup and BIM, are already well deployed in the nuclear industry. But others, like model-based system engineering or operational virtual twin, are still emerging in the nuclear industry. And yet, I think that we can learn a lot from other manufacturing industries, like aerospace and automotive, who have already deployed and benefit from these technologies. Today, when you look at these industries, they were able to transform the way they design, manufacture, deliver, and operate manufactured products. We, as a nuclear industry, can do the same and learn the best practices from these industries. But as there are some specificities in the nuclear industry, we also have to adapt these learnings and digital technologies to the needs of our industry. And this is why it's important to leverage the synergy between nuclear engineering and software development and solution providers. So you have to leverage the best of a software provider like Dassault Systèmes that can deliver to you the best technologies which are industry proven and based on industry standards, and also bring to you the best practices from other industries, and a nuclear engineering company like Systèmes that have the know-how of how to engineer this kind of complex products.
So regarding our system side, we are a nuclear engineering company of 57 years of age. So this expertise allows us to bring best engineering practices and processes from nuclear industry, and it allows us to structure methods and processes to project-specific needs. And besides, in our system, we have a mindset which is engineering powered by digital. So we have already been facing the challenges of deploying such a tooling ecosystem on specific projects, different projects and for different scopes. And then it allows us to provide some expertise to define what is a virtual twin, I mean functionally, to build it and to maintain it in order that it remains efficient for its main users. So before giving life, so to say, to a virtual twin, we need to rely on a core, robust skeleton of fundamental processes. So here we have highlighted 6 of them. So we have requirement management, system architecture, safety analysis. We will come back on these 2 later on in the presentation. 3D modeling, configuration management, and interface management. So these are 6 fundamental processes. But why? Because they structure the whole project, the whole engineering project. They involve many stakeholders and not only the design teams, and they enable to structure other processes that will come up later on in the project. And why this? So these processes are kind of standardized in other industrial sectors, so we need to somehow address the specificities of the nuclear industry. And to do that, we need to somehow develop overlay applications for these processes. And this is why a synergy between engineering company and a software editor makes sense. So let's introduce our concrete use case here. So Thomas will introduce the use case example with a virtual twin, but let me first introduce the technological scope. So we based our example on an existing and mature design. So it's a technology based on the high temperature gas reactor concept. So here you have a view of the main power system, which is composed of a reactor module, heat exchanger module on the right, and a turbine generator module on the left. So it's a direct gas cycle. And for the sake of this presentation, we will going to have a focus on a specific system, which is an auxiliary system of the plant, the reactor cavity cooling system.
So in this presentation, we will first introduce the specifics of the nuclear industry in the functional analysis process. And then we will present how we have implemented it together in our tool, MBSE tool, CATIA Magic. And eventually we will introduce how we have used the digital continuity from system architecture to this, the detailed design with the 3D experience platform.
Okay, so thank you, Thomas. Let's come back to the RCCS, so the reactor cavity cooling system. So here you have a very simplified schematic overview of the system. So you have the reactor pressure vessel, which is located in a cavity. And somehow you will have radiative heat transfer from the reactor pressure vessel to the cavity. So you need to remove the heat from the cavity. And you have to imagine that the cavity itself is surrounded by cooling panels that are made up of pipes, and the heat is extracted with using water. So it's a water-cooled concept here. So let's identify more clearly the different functions of the system in different operational situations, and for it, let's use functional analysis. So first, let's have a step back and see the system as a whole. And let's take the normal operation situation. So in this situation, you have, of course, the reactor unit system that generates heat from nuclear reaction. And this heat is then converted to power by the power conversion system that provides back the coolant to the reactor unit. So it's the basic, the classical cooling loop. But in the same time, you need to remove heat from cavity to the main heat sink. So that's one of the functions of the reactor cavity cooling system. And to remove the heat to the environment, it relies on the main heat sink system that is an active system, so it needs power supply. So this is the typical situation, normal operation. Now we are going to postulate an accidental operation. So we are going to postulate the loss of the power conversion system and the power grid. The first assumption that we are making is that there is a reactor trip. So the reactor goes to the safe state, and so the nuclear chain reaction is stopped. But still, you need to remove decay heat from the reactor. So as you lose your power grid, you lose basically your main heatsink system, and we have just lost our power convection system. So you need somehow to have the whole system reconfigured. So we need, for example, for this, to mitigate this scenario, we need a backup cooling tower to remove the heat from the RCCS to the environment, and this backup cooling tower is power supplied by emergency diesel. And in this situation, the reactor cavity cooling system has to remove all the decay heat from cavity to the backup cooling tower. So the heat load is quite different. To do that, you need somehow a support function, which is the tank level, the water tank level monitoring. So it's a support function that allows to monitor the availability of the safety feature, which is the core heat removal, which is the function of the reactor cavity cooling system. And this safety feature of the RCCS contributes to the fundamental safety function, which is core heat removal. So let's sum up. From this example, we can obtain a very simplified data model of safety so data model is like concepts and relationships between these concepts. So this data model highlights kind of two worlds. The first world is the world of functions. So we have safety functional concepts that are used to mitigate situation at the plant level. And we have the world of disciplines, which is the world of systems, of components, so like logical, physical world. And we need somehow to make sure that the physical world implements what has been required in the worlds of function. So we need to maintain traceability and consistency between these two worlds. So what we have presented here is a very simplified approach through functional analysis. But of course, for a real project, there is a great amount of data, of objects that will have to be manipulated. You need to imagine that you have hundreds of systems, thousands of functions, hundreds of initiators, and so on. So it becomes quite complex to manage all this amount of data with traditional approach. So this is where the virtual twin comes up, and it can bring you a support in centralizing the information, in enhancing communication, in improving data traceability and consistency. All right? But still, you need somehow to use the specific vocabulary, the specific terms of the safety domain. And this is why we need somehow to have a safety viewpoint in the virtual twin in order to handle this business process. And so here we are just taking one example, which is the safety process. And you need to imagine that you have to somehow apply the same approach for each of the core processes I have mentioned before in order to highlight the data structure that is really needed to address the nuclear specificities.
So speaking about virtual twin, let's dive in the 3D experience platform and CATIA Magic in particular. So here is our system engineering portfolio, and we have highlighted the main MBSE processes, the model-based system engineering processes, where CATIA Magic brings the most value. So first, we will use it at the system of system level for what we call mission modeling and, or we call it also business process analysis. And then we move to the system engineering level, where we will use CATIA Magic for the functional analysis and then the logical architecture of the system. And for that part, it's worth to notice that we use, the tool is based on the SysML standard. And it's quite important because when we follow the standard, we are more open and we can share more easily the data with other applications. And that's a key point for the digital continuity. And then, eventually, we go from the system level to the component or subsystem levels. And for that part, we switch from the Katia Magic tool, where we are working on the architecture. We move to the 3D experience platform, where we will start the detailed design for each specific discipline, such as the fluidic, mechanical, or other electrical discipline. And this is what we have done together with that system on our use case with the RCCS system. But before that, just to mention that Katia Magic is not only a tool, it's also a methodology. And so when we propose Katia Magic and the 3D experience platform, we have the generic methodology that can be applied in every industry. It's based, again, on the pure SysML. But as SysML is open, we have, it can be extended. And this is what we did.
And yeah, thank you, Thomas. So this is what we did. We have added a specific nuclear safety viewpoint in Katia Magic based on our system nuclear safety knowledge and to address some of the functional safety stakes. And this is what we're going to present right now. So I will give you some examples of MBSE activities in Katia Magic. So we'll talk about product breakdown structure, how we can build a functional mitigation scenario, and how we can somehow build a traceability map, so kind of graph between high-level safety concepts to conceptual equipment traceability, to conceptual equipment. So let's go for it. So here you have a view of the overall grid, and we'll see how we can build a product breakdown structure, which is really the backbone of the NPP. So every node here of the structure, every system is an object that can be handled in different representations, such as a mitigation scenario. So let's talk about now of the safety features and mitigation scenario. So we can build here a real table containing postulated initiating events. So each of the objects here is a real object. So you can have some attributes and we can make connections with other objects in the tool. And this is what we did. We can connect this object to what we call safety feature groups that are functional objects that allow to represent a mitigation risk. So here, so this functional safety group has to mitigate a postulated initiating event, and a functional safety group is represented by a mitigation scenario. So here, basically, this is what I presented earlier. You have here a scenario that displays all the systems that are involved in the mitigation scenario. So here are the gray vertical lines are the systems. The gray boxes inside are the functions, and all the little arrows between the gray boxes are the functional interfaces. So here it allows us to describe a scenario, to capture functional performance constraints requirements linked to a given scenario. And now let's talk about traceability. So here you will have you can find a traceability map that allows to check how our fundamental safety functions are implemented in safety feature groups, which are then derived in safety features and support safety features up to the equipments. So it's a very nice way to check how high-level concepts are covered by logical elements. So to conclude here, so these representations are somehow engineering deliverables, all right? So they must be challenged during dedicated gate reviews, during the design, and in order to provide the right inputs for the design activities. So these MBSE activities are really the starting point for the digital continuity in the virtual twin.
So once we have created the architecture in Katia Magic, actually we have created this PBS that we have already seen. And, but it's not over, and the thing is that in Katia Magic we have no governance, okay? We have no workflow, no change requests and so on. So we have to move the data into the 3D experience platform, where we will reuse every capabilities offered by the platform, by the PLM, and we will apply change request, lifecycle, configuration, and so on. Moreover, once we have moved this data in the platform, we can use other applications from the platform. And these are some examples we have. And we will start the detailed design, such as the piping, the fluidic architecture that I will present later. And we can also do the traceability and ensure the digital continuity. And so we use CATIA Magic for the first part, for what we call the model-based system engineering, where we will refine requirements, work on the architecture. And then we move to the model-based design in the platform. And we have created several fluidic architecture, so the PFD first and the PNID. And we have also created the 3D part, so the virtual twin of our plant. And of course, with each step, we keep the traceability to ensure the digital continuity. And I will show in the video how we have done that. So we start from the grid, in CATIA Magic, and now we focus on the architecture of our RCCS. So it's a very high-level architecture, not a lot of details, but it's important because we have one level of architecture, one level of abstraction in CATIA Magic. Then we move in the platform. Here we have we have moved the data from CATIA Magic to what we call the logical level, logical design in the platform. And we have kept everything that has been designed before. And these logical elements from the platform can be reused then for other disciplines. It can be mechanical. Here we created a process flow diagram. We use the same element. We just give more details. We create what we call facet on each logical element. And we give the properties of the specific, for example, if we have a pump, etc., we can give the specific characteristics of the element. And here again, it was very close to what we did in CATIA Magic, but we had already we had more details. We had the pump. Now we are moved to the next step, which is the PNID, where we have almost everything, the valves and so on. And so again, we are using the same kind of element from the platform. And I said that we have gone one step further and we created the virtual twin of the plant. And this is what we see here, where we have not only created the RCCS in 3D, but the whole plant. And the concrete and heat exchanger and so on. Yeah. And I said that we have kept the traceability and that we are not duplicating data. We are using the same data, and we try to prove it here just by using the PNID diagram we used before. We can select, we can browse, explore the 3D mockup, the virtual twin, because everything is connected. Every 3D element, 3D parts is connected to a logical element we created before. And we did that from CATIA Magic, so from the safety requirement, the safety analysis, up to the 3D part. So we have also this kind of view where we will analyze the impact, because everything is connected. So if I want to know what I need to change, what I need to modify because I have a new safety constraint, I can see it. So we have this view that shows all the connection, the end-to-end connection, and we can just use it also to parse. Again, we are displaying CATIA Magic elements. Then, so here, this is the impact analysis view, where we have at the bottom, at the top left, the safety element, on the right, the 3D part of our virtual twin.
Okay, so let's wrap up this demonstration with three main key messages. So what you just saw is how we managed the integration of some safety specificities in functional analysis and how these have been derived in the physical architecture and 3D mockup. So to do that, we have developed a specific plugin in CATIA Magic which encompasses safety-related objects and concepts based on nuclear engineering knowledge. And finally, we have shown that how design activities are structured by system architecting process and how we can use the 3D experience platform as a collaborative platform and single source of truth as well.
So thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Benjamin. So I now better understand what is a virtual twin in the conceptual design phase and how you can address safety concerns with model-based system engineering and 3D experience. So to wrap up, as you have seen, setting an engineering collaboration platform is key, but it's not efficient. It's not sufficient to build and benefit from a virtual twin. You have to set up structuring processes like requirements, safety analysis, but you also have to tailor these key processes, business processes, to take into account the specificities of the nuclear industry. And Systèmes and Dassault Systèmes can really jointly help you define and build these processes and your own virtual twin. Please come and meet us at our booth to discuss your project. I remind you also that we will have a second workshop session on virtual twin and detail engineering. So we'll take again this example, and tomorrow at 12:30 we will go more into the details of how to go into system design. So please join also this workshop if you want to see more about the capabilities and how to move from conceptual design to basic and detailed design. Thank you very much.
Thank you.